There is a specific, suffocating kind of silence that fills the room right before a man's entire life falls apart on live television. 3 hours ago, my husband of 6 years locked me out of the grand opening gala of the very enterprise my family had bankrolled from the ground up. He looked directly into my eyes, adjusted his expensive silk tie, and told me I was simply too plain, too quiet, and too unpolished to stand beside him in front of high-profile international investors. He walked onto that glittering stage holding the hand of his 24-year-old marketing director, fully prepared to introduce her to the elite business world as the true muse and mastermind behind his meteoric rise to success. He honestly believed I would go back to our suburban house, lock myself in the bedroom, and weep into a pillow while he bathed in the flashbulbs of the press. He forgot one critical detail. I never went home. Instead, I took an elevator down to the master audiovisual control room, closed the heavy acoustic door behind me, and prepared to show hundreds of elite guests and over 50,000 online viewers exactly who built the ground he was standing on. If you have ever had someone mistake your patience for weakness, or use your silent sacrifices as stepping stones to elevate themselves while treating you like disposable trash, take a deep breath and listen closely. Because tonight, you are going to witness what happens when an arrogant man forgets who actually holds the deed to his empire. To truly understand how sweet this reckoning was, you have to understand where we started 6 years ago. My name is Clara Vance. I grew up in a family of structural engineers, commercial developers, and corporate contract lawyers. My grandfather did not believe in flashy sports cars or superficial status symbols. He believed in prime commercial land, multi-generational family trusts, and rock-solid legal agreements that could never be broken. He taught me how to read complex financial ledgers before I was even old enough to drive. When I met Julian Hayes, he was an ambitious, chronically penniless junior designer. He worked out of a cramped, windowless studio that smelled of cheap instant coffee and damp drafting paper. He had charcoal smudges permanently embedded beneath his fingernails and worn-out leather notebooks filled with brilliant, soaring architectural sketches. Julian had undeniable artistic talent, but in the world of luxury commercial real estate, talent without massive capital is nothing more than pretty lines drawn on paper. He had zero credit, no influential connections, and a mountain of unpaid student debts. I fell in love with his passion, his late-night monologues about shaping skylines, and the vulnerable way he spoke about wanting to leave a permanent mark on the world. When he proposed to me on a chilly autumn evening by the river, I said yes with all my heart. My family was deeply skeptical from the very beginning. My father warned me that men who have never tasted power will often lose their minds the moment they are handed a silver platter. But I was young, hopelessly in love, and determined to build a lasting legacy beside the man I adored. Against my family's explicit warnings, I dipped heavily into my private trust reserve. Over the first 5 years of our marriage, I quietly injected $3.8 million into launching his firm, which he named Aura Design and Build. I was the one who negotiated a 99-year commercial lease for our flagship headquarters on the most prestigious avenue in the city. Because the building was owned through my family's historical holdings, I secured terms that no commercial bank in the country could ever match. Julian was the charismatic face of the brand. He spent his afternoons dining with city council members, laughing at private country clubs, and pitching avant-garde design concepts to wealthy clients. Meanwhile, I was the unseen spine of the entire enterprise. I spent 60 hours a week locked in the back offices. I reviewed the structural blueprints with the site managers, balanced the messy corporate ledgers, ensured complete compliance with city zoning permits, and handled our tax audits. For the first 4 years, we functioned like a well-oiled machine. When he came home exhausted from high-stakes networking events, I had a warm dinner ready and an encouraging smile waiting. When our cash flow dipped dangerously low between major municipal projects, I quietly transferred tens of thousands of dollars from my private dividends to cover our staff payroll, never once making him feel inadequate or emasculated. However, sudden wealth, unearned praise, and public attention do strange, dangerous things to insecure men. As the company began landing 7-figure municipal contracts and earning features in high-end design magazines, Julian's memory of our journey began to warp into a completely fictional narrative. At glamorous cocktail parties, the $3.8 million of my family's money suddenly transformed into a small temporary loan that he had paid back with interest years ago. My endless nights of managing legal liabilities and auditing subcontractors were casually brushed off as minor administrative chores handled by his quiet wife. He started correcting me in public, rolling his eyes whenever I offered input on project budgets, and acting as though my presence was a burden he was politely tolerating. Then 8 months ago, a young woman named Sloan Miller entered our lives. Julian hired Sloan as our new director of brand elevation. She was 24, impeccably dressed in designer labels, and possessed a razor-sharp, calculated charm. She understood exactly how to feed Julian's fragile, expanding ego. Sloan did not care about municipal zoning ordinances, soil sample testing, or building code compliance. She spoke entirely in the language of superficial modern status. She talked about viral social media aesthetics, exclusive private clubs, and cultivating an untouchable air of international luxury. Within weeks, Sloan had Julian completely wrapped around her manicured finger. She convinced him that he was not just an ordinary architect, but a visionary artist whose genius was being suffocated by ordinary, traditional domestic life. The disrespect toward me escalated from subtle coldness to open, humiliating cruelty. First, Julian began leaving me off the guest lists for high-level client dinners, claiming that modern venture capitalists preferred dynamic, high-energy creative discussions that would only confuse and bore me. Next, he asked the facilities team to move my private office from the executive top floor down to the windowless basement annex. When I confronted him about it, he did not even look up from his phone. He casually told me that having his wife sitting across the hall made the firm look like a quaint mom-and-pop shop, which ruined the sleek corporate image he and Sloan were building. I endured the insult without raising my voice. I swallowed the lump in my throat and continued doing my job, because we were on the verge of completing our biggest, most expensive project to date, the Glass Vault. The Glass Vault was a $12 million ultra-luxury design pavilion, event space, and private social club built right along the waterfront. It was designed to be the ultimate crown jewel of his career, an architectural masterpiece that would attract European venture capitalists and elevate him into the highest tax bracket in the country. The grand opening gala was scheduled for a Friday evening. It was the most anticipated social event of the season, with city officials, international investors, fashion icons, and major media outlets flying in from all across the globe. 3 weeks before the gala, I walked into the dark office building late on a rainy Tuesday evening to drop off the finalized fire safety and occupancy certificates. The entire floor was empty, with the ambient overhead lights switched off, except for a warm, dim glow spilling out from Julian's corner suite. The heavy frosted glass door was open by an inch. As I approached the door, I heard soft, playful laughter, followed by the distinct clinking of crystal whiskey glasses. I paused in the hallway shadows. Julian was leaning back against his dark mahogany desk, holding a tumbler of bourbon, his suit jacket discarded on the leather couch. Sloan was sitting on the edge of the desk, leaning forward so closely that her perfume filled the doorway. She was gently running her painted fingers along the lapel of his crisp white shirt. Sloan spoke in a low, purring tone that dripped with condescension. She told him that I was an anchor dragging him down. She told him that on Friday night, the world would be watching, with European investors and luxury lifestyle magazines covering every second. She looked him in the eyes and said that Clara looked like an exhausted spreadsheet clerk who belonged in a dusty warehouse. She warned him that if he walked the red carpet with me on his arm, the elite investors would immediately realize he was just a man who married into money. But if he walked out with her, he would be viewed as a modern self-made visionary. I stood completely frozen in the dim hallway. The heavy legal folders in my hands felt entirely weightless. My chest tightened until my lungs burned, and a sickening, violent pounding echoed inside my ears. I waited to hear Julian defend me. I waited for him to remind her of the 6 years of sacrifice, the millions of dollars of trust capital, and the endless nights I had spent fixing his broken blueprints. Instead, Julian let out a low, dismissive laugh that instantly eradicated 6 years of marriage in a matter of seconds. Julian told her not to worry. He told her that he had already instructed the public relations team to scrub my name completely from the VIP guest registry. He said he would simply tell me that the city fire department had capped the venue capacity at the last minute. He laughed and said that Clara would probably pout, bake a comfort casserole, and sit quietly at home waiting for him. Then Julian dropped the real bomb. He explained that once the grand opening concluded, and the multi-million-dollar French investment consortium signed the final capital infusion documents, he would trigger the restructuring clause in our corporate bylaws. He planned to dilute my family trust equity into non-voting penny shares, push me off the board of directors entirely, and legally force a buyout of my operational lease. Sloane smiled, tilted her head, and asked what would happen if I decided to hire lawyers and fight back. Julian took a slow sip of his bourbon and sneered. He said Clara did not have the spine to fight anyone. He said I was far too timid, too terrified of public embarrassment, and too desperate for his affection to ever cause a scene. Standing in that freezing hallway, something fundamentally shifted deep inside my soul. The agonizing pain and heartbreak that had gripped my chest suddenly dissolved, replaced by a cold, sharp, crystal-clear focus. I did not kick the door open. I did not scream at them, throw the heavy folders across the desk, or shed a single tear. When someone reveals themselves to be an ungrateful, predatory monster, screaming only feeds their ego. Real justice is not loud. Real justice is quiet, meticulous, and legally devastating. I took 3 silent steps backward on the plush corridor carpet, slipped down the emergency concrete stairwell, and walked out into the cold rain without making a sound. The next 72 hours were an absolute masterclass in tactical warfare. Julian was an artist who only cared about surface aesthetics. He cared about the vintage champagne brands, the flower arrangements, the celebrity guest lists, and the bespoke Italian tuxedos. Because of his towering arrogance, he had never bothered to read the underlying foundational paperwork of the empire he claimed to own. He completely forgot 3 vital facts. First, the master property lease for the entire commercial parcel that housed the glass vault was not registered under Aura Design and Build. It was registered under the Vance Heritage Trust, with my legal signature serving as the sole authorized executor. Second, the primary corporate liquidity bank accounts, which held $2.2 million meant for contractor final payments, catering expenses, and facility operations, were under a dual-token security protocol. Any single expenditure exceeding $10,000 legally required my private biometric authorization. Third, the high-end audiovisual, lighting, and global live streaming contract for the grand opening ceremony had been negotiated, paid for, and signed by me through a media production company owned by an old loyal college friend of mine. On Thursday morning, 24 hours before the event, Julian sat across from me at our kitchen table, casually spreading strawberry jam on his toast. He put on a face of dramatic, practiced disappointment. He looked at me and said he had heartbreaking news. He claimed the city fire marshal had unexpectedly cut the building's maximum occupancy by 40% due to emergency ventilation concerns. He told me that in order to protect the future of the company, he had to prioritize foreign venture capitalists and national journalists. He reached across the table, patted my hand condescendingly, and told me I needed to stay home for the evening. He promised we would celebrate privately over the weekend. I looked at him, noticing the brand new diamond cufflinks Sloane had picked out for him resting against his wrists. I gave him a soft, compliant, entirely innocent smile. I told him that I completely understood, and that the brand must always come first. The wave of arrogant relief that washed over his face was pathetic to witness. He actually leaned across the table and kissed my forehead, thoroughly convinced that he had successfully manipulated a defenseless woman. The very second his luxury sports car pulled out of the driveway, my family's senior corporate attorney, Marcus Wright, walked into my front door carrying a stack of red-stamped legal documents. By 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, exactly 5 hours before the red carpet was set to open, our trap was completely set. We filed an emergency legal injunction in civil court, freezing every single corporate bank account tied to Aura Design, citing clear evidence of corporate embezzlement, including $45,000 Julian had fraudulently charged to the firm's research budget to purchase high-end jewelry for Sloane. Next, we filed an immediate notice of lease default with the city authorities, officially revoking the building's commercial occupancy permit effective at precisely 9 o'clock that evening, due to intentional fraudulent misrepresentation on the ownership disclosure forms. Finally, I drove directly to the venue, walked into the main broadcast production truck parked discreetly across the street, and sat down beside my friend, the chief technical director. At 7:30 in the evening, the grand opening gala officially began. Through the bank of high-definition production monitors, I watched the entire spectacle unfold in real time. The glass vault was undeniably stunning. 300 elite guests in designer gowns and bespoke tuxedos mingled under 30-foot crystal chandeliers, sipping vintage champagne and marveling at the soaring glass architecture. Over 50,000 industry professionals and architecture enthusiasts were tuned into the official YouTube livestream from around the world. Julian looked like he was walking on air. He strode across the polished white marble floors, basking in the praise of high-ranking diplomats and wealthy investors. Walking closely at his side was Sloane, dressed in a shimmering emerald evening gown, laughing loudly and accepting congratulations as if she were the queen of the city. At 8:45, the overhead house lights dimmed. Dramatic orchestral music swelled through the state-of-the-art surround sound system. Julian stepped onto the elevated center stage under blinding, brilliant white spotlights. He tapped the microphone with a gold-ringed finger, smiling broadly as the entire room fell into an eager, expectant silence. Julian cleared his throat and addressed the crowd. He spoke about pure, uncompromising vision. He claimed that true greatness requires shedding dead weight and daring to reach for the stars. He looked out at the sea of television cameras and foreign investors, his chest puffed out with unearned pride. Then, Julian looked toward the front row, reached his hand out, and invited Sloane onto the stage with him. He held her hand tightly, looked into the camera lenses, and boldly announced that every great architectural triumph requires an extraordinary muse. He announced to the world that Sloane was his true partner in every sense of the word, and the sole inspiration behind the birth of Aura International. The ballroom erupted into enthusiastic applause. Sloane stepped forward, pretending to wipe an emotional tear from her eye, and leaned in to kiss Julian on the lips right in front of the flashing press cameras. Sitting in the dim glow of the production van across the street, I turned to the lead broadcast engineer and gave him a slow, decisive nod. I told him to cut the feed and roll the master file. The engineer clicked the mouse. In a fraction of a second, the sleek cinematic corporate promotional video playing on the massive 80-foot ultra-high-definition jumbotron behind Julian completely vanished. The screen instantly flickered, cutting to a giant, crystal-clear, high-resolution scan of a certified banking wire transfer. Bold, black letters nearly 10 feet tall filled the entire wall behind Julian's head. Initial capitalization, $3,800,000. 100% secured and owned by the Vance Heritage Trust and Clara Vance. A confused, uncomfortable murmur rippled through the 300 guests in the ballroom. Julian's triumphant grin froze into a grotesque stiff mask. He turned around, saw the glowing bank statements, and nervously tapped his microphone, stuttering that there was a minor technical glitch with the graphic slideshow. Before he could finish his sentence, the screen transitioned to the next slide. It was a giant unredacted transcript of the private text messages exchanged between Julian and Sloane from the previous week. Their profile pictures and personal phone numbers were displayed in massive resolution for every billionaire, politician, and livestream viewer to read. Julian's message read, "Clara thinks she is getting an anniversary trip to Italy. I am serving her with the buyout paperwork the second the French venture capitalists wire the first capital installment. She funded the foundation, but we are taking the penthouse." Sloane's reply flashed right beneath it. "Make sure her name is completely scrubbed from the press releases. Tonight belongs to us and she is too weak to ever fight back." A collective horrified gasp echoed across the vast ballroom. Hundreds of people instantly pulled out their smartphones, recording the colossal screen. The YouTube livestream comment section was moving so fast the chat software began to lag, with thousands of viewers screenshotting the betrayal in real time. Julian's face completely lost all of its color, turning a sickening shade of chalky white under the harsh stage spotlights. Sloane dropped Julian's hand as if it were burning hot metal. She stepped backward, frantically holding up her gold-embossed program booklet to hide her face from the dozens of photojournalists who were now aggressively flashing their cameras directly at her. Julian completely lost his composure. He lunged toward the edge of the stage, screaming into his microphone with a voice that cracked into high-pitched, desperate panic. He ordered the venue technicians to kill the main power grid and commanded security to forcefully evacuate the control deck. Right on cue, at exactly 9 o'clock on the dot, The heavy mahogany double doors at the main entrance slammed open against the marble walls. 6 uniformed sheriff deputies strode into the ballroom, flanked by 4 building inspectors and my attorney, Marcus Wright, who held a bright red, certified court order high in the air. Marcus did not even need a microphone. His deep, authoritative voice boomed across the silent, shell-shocked room. Marcus announced that pursuant to an emergency writ issued by the county circuit court, the master commercial lease for the property had been officially terminated due to unlawful asset concealment and corporate fraud. He declared all operating bank accounts legally frozen and stated that the premises were officially deemed unsafe and unauthorized for public occupation. Marcus looked directly up at Julian on the stage and announced that everyone in the building had exactly 10 minutes to evacuate before the entire facility was padlocked by law enforcement. The global livestream caught every single agonizing second of Julian's absolute destruction. The cameras captured the look of sheer terror in his eyes as the French investment executives immediately stood up, grabbed their coats, and walked out through the emergency exits without saying a single word. The cameras captured Sloane tripping over the hem of her expensive gown as she frantically shoved past socialites, trying to escape the wall of flashing cameras outside the front doors. Across the street, inside the quiet warmth of the production truck, I closed my laptop screen, unclipped my audio headset, and leaned back in my chair. I stepped out of the vehicle and into the cool midnight air. I looked up at the glittering glass building across the street as the bright flashing red and blue lights of police cruisers illuminated the facade. The crushing weight of betrayal that had rested on my shoulders for months was completely gone, replaced by an overwhelming, profound sense of peace. The fallout over the next several months was swift, merciless, and absolute. Within 48 hours of the broadcast, every single private client, commercial developer, and municipal partner terminated their contracts with Aura Design. The state licensing board launched an immediate formal inquiry into Julian's financial practices, ultimately revoking his commercial architectural license after uncovering multiple instances of unauthorized fund transfers and corporate tax evasion. During our divorce proceedings, Julian attempted to claim half of the company's theoretical value. However, because our forensic accounting team proved that every single asset was acquired through the fraudulent misuse of Vance Family Trust capital, the judge awarded him nothing. In fact, Julian was legally ordered to pay back over $1.4 million in restitution. The last time I heard any news about him, Julian was working as a low-level freelance CAD draftsman for a budget strip mall contractor 3 states away, living in a rundown studio apartment and drowning in legal debt. Sloan Miller's reputation in the high-end marketing and corporate branding world was permanently destroyed. After the text messages went viral across professional networking platforms, she was quietly dismissed from every board she served on and completely vanished from the public eye. As for the Glass Vault, the commercial title reverted entirely back to my family's holding firm. 2 months later, I finalized an agreement to sell the entire property to a non-profit children's medical foundation, transforming a monument of shallow vanity into a sanctuary of genuine healing and hope. People who rely on arrogance and deception always make the same fatal mistake. They assume that someone who is quiet, patient, and polite is someone who lacks strength. They assume that because you choose not to scream, you do not know how to fight. They forget that the person who quietly laid the foundation is the only one who truly knows which pillar to knock out to bring the entire ceiling crashing down. If this story gave you the chills and delivered the satisfying justice you were looking for today, make sure to hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel for more powerful narratives. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. What is the most satisfying, perfectly executed moment of real-life karma you have ever witnessed? Thank you for listening, take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next story.